Hello everyone, welcome to day 4 of Java coding. Today we will be looking at coding practices and basically how do you make coding ever so slightly easier for yourself. There, I made these up. These aren't like an actual thing, but I think these are really important. They're like the 3 C's of coding. When you're making code, you want to make it as, let me see if my face is blocking. No, it's not. Alright, sweet. Making code, you want to make it as clear, consistent, and concise as possible. Now those sound really, those sound like the same thing, but I will show you the differences. So clarity, how do you make your code clear? There's a thing called commenting in code. What if you want to add in text that just sort of describes what you're doing, but you don't want it to affect your code at all, really? There's a thing called adding comments, end of line comments. By typing 2 backslashes, whatever you're going to put after those 2 backslashes will not be included in your code. Your compiler will ignore them completely. It will just delete them and run whatever else is there. There's also, if you want multi-line comments, a comment to go on for multiple lines, you could start it off with backslash and then the asterisk, and then at the end of it, you type in the asterisk and then the backslash. Let me show you that in Codiva. Yeah. So if I want to add a little comment here, I'll just add a bunch of spaces. You don't have to add the spaces. The spaces don't affect anything. I type 2 backslashes. You can even include a third if you want to, be safe. You say, this is a comment. I'll just do 2 to make it clear. This is a comment. Now, if we want to comment a whole chunk of code, let's comment all of this out. You type in the backslash and the asterisk. And then here, or just at the end of this, you can type in asterisk and then backslash. So you see that these two end brackets, they're actually included in the code because it's only the things that are inside between these two asterisks that get commented out. So that adds clarity for your code. And usually you wouldn't comment out pieces of code. You'd comment out like a huge paragraph, like, oh, I have a bunch of things to say. Here's a poem. Roses are red. Violets are pink. And then you end that off. So usually it wouldn't be like a bunch of random stuff. It would be things that relate to your code. Something that describes your code. Something that explains the purpose of certain lines or certain for loops or certain things here and there. Explanations for your code. And that adds clarity. You'll see commenting everywhere, and when you go into like professional coding. So understanding what a comment is, it's just something that's not included in your code but adds clarity. That's the first step, the first C. The second C, the fourth C I guess is just code. That's okay. Commenting. Yeah, I basically said everything that's in the slide. It's you want to add comments so that if you showed your code to someone else, they'd be able to understand how it works and everything about it, and basically how they can edit it too, so that they can add their little twist to it. And consistency, that's the next one. Inconsistency. If you see, if you can tell what the inconsistency here is, then good job. You're good at noticing. But you'll see a couple things here. This looks like, wow, Luke, you're just really bad at typing. Yeah, I start off in this one. I say, I add 2 spaces in between the equal sign, right? This one I only add it after the equal sign. This one I only add a space before the equal sign, and I capitalized the first letter of my variable, which people don't usually do because it's inconsistent. And then while I separate words by capitalizing the first letter of the second word here, I capitalize the A in my age. Here, I separate it with whatever that's called, the underscore. And I don't even add spaces here. And I don't even have a quotation at the end of this. You could tell how inconsistent this code is. If I wanted to fix this code, which I will show you guys. Let me copy this, paste in Codiva. You guys don't have to type this out if you're. I don't think any of you are actually like following me, like my typing, but that's okay. How would you fix this up? How would you clean this up? You would add the space here. You would make weight uncapitalized and add the space after. and you would add spaces in between here and add the quotation marks. Oh man, that is weird. Here, I'll just retype it. Luke, right? And instead of my underscore name, you would just do my name. That's keeping your code consistent. Now, it doesn't have to be like this. You could take out all the spaces. You could include spaces after a certain part. As long as you're consistent, you keep it the same throughout the code. And otherwise, your code will get super messy if you don't keep it consistent. So that also adds on to clarity. That's why all these C's, they work together to make your code not just easier to read, but just, just more fluent, whatever. Yes, my consistent code now. Lazy coding. This is why you use for loops and while loops. This looks like a mess. You have a ton of print line statements, and they all could be accomplished using a simple for loop or a while loop. And I will show you smart coding. I compacted 9 lines or 10 lines of code into 3, and that's why you want to make sure you're being smart or concise about your code. Make sure you try to shorten things as much as possible, but not to the point where it's unclear. You have to balance all these things. Keep it concise to the point where it's clear, but not so clear that it's not concise. Yeah, let's just review this. You can make your code more clear by adding comments so that other people read it and they understand your code. You want to make sure it's consistent by adding the right number of spaces between variables and to name your variables consistently. And another reason why you want to name your variables consistently is so that you can remember them a lot later on. So that you can remember the names of variables. Like if you declare 100 variables, you want to make sure you can remember what each of them is named just because it's consistent. So the last thing is to make sure it's concise by using loops and other tricks to make sure it's clean and concise, and it's smart. Code smartly. I don't have any practice problems for you guys today, but I will have plenty for you later on, so be ready for those. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.